I am asked at least 50 to 100 times a day, what's the difference between Shia Islam and Sunni Islam? Like they're supposed to be the same thing, but that's not true. First of all, the overwhelming majority of practitioners of Islam are Sunni. Only 10 to 12% are Shia. And the origin of this difference between Shia and Sunni has to do with the death of the Prophet Muhammad and who was going to be his successor. And believe me, it is a much bigger deal than how it initially sounds. Keep this in mind. At the death of the Prophet Muhammad, there was just one Islam. Nothing else was broken up yet because the faith was still very new. Abu Bakr was the father-in-law of the Prophet through the Prophet's marriage to Aisha, and he was also a very close advisor. And he was chosen to be the successor and the first caliph. This is significant because Abu Bakr was not related to the Prophet by blood, which is why such a dispute occurred. This spat in the face of the people who believed that the rulership should have gone to Ali, who was the cousin of the Prophet. He also married the Prophet's daughter Fatima, so he was also his son-in-law. And this marked the huge split into two faiths. The Shia were those who believed that Ali should have been the one who became the first caliph, and the Sunnis are the ones who believe that it should have gone to Abu Bakr. So we break it down to two schools of thoughts. Those who believe that leadership should be transcended through lineage, and then others who believe that leadership should be decided upon by consensus. So the criterion to be the leader or the imam of the Shia faith is, first, you have to be a blood relation to the Prophet, specifically through Ali and Fatima. You have to be one of their descendants. The second is you have to be, of course, from the same tribe as the Prophet, which is the Quraysh. And then the third is that you have to be chosen divinely, generally through the blessing of the previous imam. For the Sunnis, in order to be their leader or their caliph, you have to be from the Quraysh tribe, and you have to be chosen through an open community consultation, the Shura. I believe that's what it's called. And whenever I give this explanation, I'm usually met with the reply, well, that's it, that's not much of a difference. Yeah, but that one difference culminated into a bunch of others within the past 1400 years. And it was this difference which most likely, in my opinion, saw the early demise of the very first caliphate, which was called the Rashidun Caliphate. That means the rightly guided. Because the caliphate only lasted between 632 to 661 AD. The very first caliph, like I mentioned earlier, was Abu Bakr, and he lasted for about 2 years until he died of old age. The second caliph was Umar, who lasted for 10 years. He saw the expansion into Persia and Byzantium. He ended up getting assassinated while he was praying by a slave. The third caliph was Uthman. He lasted about 12 years. He was considered to be a bit more serving towards the elites, but he did release the first official Quran, but he ended up being assassinated by internal dissenters who surrounded his house and then just, after a long siege, got rid of him. What's notable about Uthman was that he was from the Umayyad clan, and he was the first Umayyad to be the caliph, and the reason why he faced so much internal dissent was the favor that he was showing was toward his Umayyad relatives. And it's interesting because upon his death, that infuriated the leader of the Umayyad clan. Then there was the fourth and last caliph of the Rashidun dynasty, which was Ali, and he lasted only 5 years until he was assassinated. He only lasted 5 years, mainly because of this guy, Muawiyah, who was that very powerful Umayyad who I mentioned before. He was also the governor of Syria. Upon the assassination of Uthman, Muawiyah was very upset and he refused to swear allegiance to Ali, so they ended up having a battle. Mainly the Battle of Siffin, which saw thousands of deaths, and it was pretty much a stalemate. So both sides, realizing that they really couldn't win decisively against the other, they decided to go for arbitration. Unfortunately, there were people on Ali's side, they were called Qajarites, who believed that you could not go into arbitration with the people of Muawiyah, so his own people, Ali's own people, assassinated him. They stabbed and cut him with poisoned swords. He died 2 days later. And with his death perished the Rashidun Caliphate, and it was taken over by Muawiyah, and it became known as the Umayyad Caliphate. Now, there's a lot more that's happened over the past 1300 years which further elaborated the differences between Sunni and Shia, but I hope I gave you a decent enough intro. I am the Geo Husar, and let me know if you're curious about Hussein and the Battle of Karbala. Thanks for watching.